من بعد ما ظلموا لنبوئنهم في الدنيا حسنة والأجر الآخرة أكبر لو كانوا يعلمون. وقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم المسلمون كرجل واحد إن اشتكى عينه وإن اشتكى كله وإن اشتكى رأسه وإن اشتكى كله. Assalamu alaikum, my dear respected brothers, elders, and my young ones. The Muslims at the moment are going through quite a testing time. There's so many topics that I could have chosen to speak on today, but there's nothing quite as pressing as the plight of the Rohingya Muslims at the moment. Now, there's a number of things that I wanted to do with these Jummah Bayans. I wanted to go through a thought of ideas such as going through the Seerah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, going through some of the Akabir Sahaba. But because of this dire situation that the Rohingyas are facing at the moment, I thought I'd use this opportunity to highlight this topic. Now, what I'm going to do in today's bayan is I'm going to go through a little bit of history behind who the Rohingya are, a little bit about their situation at the moment, and things that we can do to help. So the Rohingya Muslims, they're a group of Muslim people who are ethnically Burmese. They're not the same, they're not the descendants of the Chinese like the rest of the Burmese are, but they are from Burma. They are from the state of Arakan, as it used to be called. Now, before the British got to India, Arakan was its own state. It was its own sultanate. So it had its own sultan, like much of India did. Different areas had different sultans. This is one of the things that the British were so good at exploiting. Everyone must have heard of the term divide and rule. This is one of the things that the British did, where they used different states to fight each other, basically doing the fighting for them to weaken the Indian subcontinent so they could just move in. Now, this time Arakan had a population of majority Muslim, probably 90% Muslim, 10% Hindu, and some Buddhist as well. As far back as before the British arrived there, when the British East India Company arrived, they record the term Rohingya. You might hear a lot of the media nowadays trying to say that a lot of the Burmese, when they talk in the media, they say there's no such thing as a Rohingya. The Rohingya have existed, and the British have recorded it. They've recorded this term, so we know that they've existed for at least 300 years. But their origins go back to the 14th century. So the Rohingya state, Arakan Sultanate, was there as far back as the 14th century. So that's 500-600 years that they've been there. Now, that's a solid foundation for them in that state. Now, if we fast forward to a little bit closer to our time, the Second World War, where, as with a lot of the Muslims in India, they supported the Allied forces, and they supported the British, and they supported America, and they did much of the fighting in World War II. Whereas the Buddhists and the rest of the other ethnicities, the majority ethnic Burmese, they sided with the Japanese. So this was one of the causes of the friction between the Muslims and the I'm going to call them ethnic Burmese. These ethnic Burmese began feeling hostile towards the Muslims at that time, and they began persecuting the Muslims from that point onwards. When independence happened, when India became an independent country and Pakistan became an independent sovereign state, Arakan actually held a referendum on whether to join Pakistan. So if it joined Pakistan, it would now be part of Bangladesh. But unfortunately, the planned, and that there were circumstances that caused that vote to not succeed, and they remained as part of the Burma, the country called Burma. In 1960, there was another movement that happened to separate Arakan as a independent state. So not a part of Burma, not a part of Pakistan, but a state in its own right. But then the Burmese coup happened, the military coup happened in 1962, and this caused, this pretty much ended any possibility of statehood for the Rohingya Muslims. Since 1962, the army has been mercilessly persecuting the Rohingya. They face things such as forced labor. So where the term that in the West we use for it is slavery. They are forced to work for the Burmese government in fields, do manual labor. They're denied rights. They're denied money for the work that they do. So they are modern day slaves. Other things that they're facing at the moment is things like restrictions on marriage. So nikah is banned in Burma. So a concept of an Islamic wedding, an Islamic marriage, is something that's not allowed in Burma, according to the Burmese law. And their access to buy land, to build property, to build businesses, all of these things are denied to these people. They're forced to live in camps within Burma. So a lot of these villages that we're seeing that are being burnt out, they're actually huts and townships or small villages within bigger refugee camps. So that the Muslims have been pushed out of the majority of Arakan and concentrated in certain areas. Arakan is, I keep saying Arakan, I don't know if everyone's familiar with the term, but Arakan is the original name for the state that we hear on TV called Rakhine. They call it Rakhine State. So this is originally called Arakan. Now, these people are facing torture, they're facing forced labor, they're facing marriage restrictions, they're facing all kinds of restrictions on their civil liberties. When we fast forward to even more modern times, when Aung San Suu Kyi, she pleaded with the West, and she pretended that she was a bastion of human rights and a bastion of civil liberties. She convinced the majority of the Muslims, the Rohingya Muslims, to actually support her and vote for her, because she said that she would recognize them as an ethnic Burmese ethnic people. And so this is one of the promises that she made to them, and she's actually gone back on this, because even now she won't recognize these people as ethnically Burmese. I don't need to explain to everyone in this room about the punishment that they've been facing. We see it on our TV screens, we see it on our computer screens, we hear it on the news, that these people are being persecuted mercilessly. They're being burnt alive. I saw something really disturbing very recently, where children were being force-fed the meat of their parents. So their parents had been slaughtered. Their parents had been slaughtered, and these children were being forced to eat their parents. This is how barbaric. It's how barbaric the Burmese regime is when they're treating these people in this way. Now, we as a Muslim Ummah, we're one Muslim Ummah. I recite the hadith where Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam says that Muslims are like one body. Well, actually I recite the hadith, Muslims are like one man. In another narration it comes as Muslims are like one body. So if the eye hurts, the whole body should hurt. And if the head hurts, the whole body should hurt. And right now, Muslims are hurting. Muslims are hurting, and we, in our lives of luxury, we don't feel the pain. We don't feel their pain, we don't feel their suffering. We're so far removed from it. All it is an interesting news article, an interesting TV program. We just don't feel it. Now, what's caused our hearts to become so hard that we can't feel the suffering of these people? This could very easily be our mothers and fathers that are suffering like this, our children suffering like this. It could very easily be any of us. And the majority of people in this room, this is a Bangladeshi masjid, a lot of Bangladeshis in here. Why does Aung San Suu Kyi refer to these as Bengali immigrants? They speak the same language as us. They would have been part of Bangladesh had they acceded to the independent Pakistan. So they're one people. More than that, they share the kalima la ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. And it's for that reason that they're being persecuted. It's nothing other than their holy iman. For their iman, they're being persecuted. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, إن الذين فتنوا المؤمنين والمؤمنات ثم لم يتوبوا فلهم عذاب جهنم ولهم عذاب الحريق. Indeed, they've only punished and persecuted the believing men and the believing women for the sole reason of them being Muslims. For the sole reason of them being Muslims is the reason they persecute them. And they don't repent and they don't turn back to Allah. And for those people is the punishment of Jahannam and a painful and the punishment of the fire. This is the punishment that awaits these people. It's a grave warning, my dear brothers. It's a grave warning. But this isn't the first time that we face these kind of trials and tribulations. The Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala anhum ajma'in, they face these kind of tribulations on a daily basis. The tribulations that the Muslims are facing now are nothing compared to the tribulations they faced. Ammar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he was beaten and punished so severely. Bilal radiallahu ta'ala anhu was dragged through the streets, but all he'd never stop proclaiming Ahad, Ahad, Ahad. That love for Allah that was in his heart, he'd never forget that. They beat them so much that the kuffar, the mushrikeen of Makkah would get tired of beating them. And they'd take turns in beating them until the next one got tired. And then they'd take turns in beating them until the next one got tired. They'd be made to lay on the burning sands until the fat was dripping from their bodies. This is the kind of punishment that Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala anhum endured to bring us this deen. And you can see the example of the punishment that they suffered, and it's repeating time and time again. Muslims are being persecuted for the simple fact of being Muslims. Only in 2016 it was Gaza that was being bombed to a smithereen. Gaza is a 5-mile stretch of land, smaller than Leeds city. The Western media report that it's people using human shields, Hamas using human shields, or the fighters using human shields. Human shields, there's nowhere to hide. Everywhere, there's nowhere for a fighter to stand on a front line. Everywhere is within civilian population. Everywhere is so densely populated. If you attack that area, you're going to hit a civilian. Yet that happened. The Muslims reacted. a small number of Muslims reacted, that passed, now we're on to the next crisis. We're going from crisis to crisis to crisis. And these crises aren't going to leave us. Even before the end of time, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said that holding on to Iman is going to be like holding on to a hot coal. A hot coal burns. Right now, our Iman is being attacked. Our Iman is being attacked in every single way we can think of. Ways that we can't even understand. They're attacking our Iman in the way from the way the kids' TV programs are now being programmed, to the way they're bringing philosophy into schools to challenge the ideas that 5 and 6 year olds have. Government strategies like Prevent, where they are looking for radicalization in toddlers. So our Iman is not just being tackled in these theoretical ways, but it's being tackled in these kind of physical ways, where just for the sake of being Muslim, a person is being persecuted, and a person his life is being taken away, and they're made to suffer. Now, what can we as a Muslim ummah do? Because Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, "Innal mu'minuna ikhwa." So the Muslims are brothers. We're brothers to one another. And what can we do, and what should we do for each other? The world's turning its back. So far, the Bangladeshi government's turned its back. The Pakistani government is still supplying arms to the Burmese. The government's turning their back, but we as people, we should identify, and we should be able to have some. If we can't have empathy for them, well, at least we should have some sympathy. Every country you can see, there's demonstrations happening. There's people rallying and trying to lobby their governments and lobby their politicians about these atrocities that are taking place. I mean, even the UN describes the Rohingya as the most persecuted people on earth. Now, the UN haven't been known for using that strong language for anything. So when they use a term like that, then you have to take note. You have to take it seriously. They're normally very diplomatic. So what we as Muslims, we need to do our part. We need to play our part. And it's not just good enough to send a WhatsApp message. It's not just good enough to quickly do a forward. That's easy. That doesn't take effort. We need to come out of our comfort zones. We need to come out of our comfort zones and say, no, enough is enough. We're going to do whatever we can to stop this. And if we can't stop it, we're at least going to speak out about it. And if we can't speak out about it, then at least we're going to have some hurt in our hearts and some hatred in our hearts for what's going on. And that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says the lowest form of Iman, to have that little bit of nafrat in your heart. There's protests happening across the country at the moment. If we can't join in these protests, we should at least support these protests. There's a protest taking place. I'll make a couple of alams while I'm in the middle of this bayan. There's a protest taking place on the 24th of this month in Bradford. There's if we can try and support this, or we can take part, inshallah. There's other talks that are taking place. This Sunday there's a talk taking place at Mufti Shabir Sahib of Bury. Mufti Shabir Sahib, Damat Barakatuhum, he's the Ustad of our Ustads. And there's also going to be an alim who's actually Burmese, an alim who's actually Burmese, who studied in India and in Bangladesh, that's going to be speaking at this talk on Sunday in Dewsbury. Now, I heard this alim speaking, and I heard a short clip of his on the internet, where he was talking about the persecution that they've faced. Now, some of what he was talking about, to begin with, what he was doing was he was explaining about his own personal circumstances, his own personal family lineage, where he himself is ethnically Burmese, but he's a Muslim. Now, his grandparents and his grandparents' generation, they converted to Islam, they became Muslims. And his grandfather on his maternal side remains quite a senior Buddhist monk, and they're from a quite noble tradition amongst the Buddhists. Now, he was describing the process that it took him to get travel documents just to get out of Burma so he could begin his ilmi studies. Now, what he was saying was for 7 years he'd go regularly to the authorities, to the bureau that issues passports or travel documents, and he'd file his application, and they'd send him away and tell him to come back another day, or he's missing one document, or they'd find some other kind of flimsy excuse to delay issuing his travel documents. So he did this regularly, day in, day out. For 7 years he did this. And then one day he was talking to his grandfather about his problem, and his grandfather took him down to the travel office, to the passport office, and the official there was surprised, saw a Burmese monk who was dressed in his monk orange robe, orange outfit, and he saw this alim stood together, and he was quite surprised, saying, why these two people together? And when the monk explained to him who he was, the official was very respectful, saying, okay, well, you're of this lineage, but who is this next to you? He said, this is my grandson. Why is it taking him 7 years and he still hasn't got his passport documents? And then the official, from the minute of saying, oh, it's on its way, within a matter of a few minutes after that, he produced the passport. So this is the reason I tell you this story, is just to highlight to you the stark contrast between the way the government treats people who are Burmese or who are Buddhists and the way it treats Muslims. This is just from an official point of view. All the killings and the torture and everything else, that's just an unofficial. That goes on behind the scenes. Even now, the darling of the West, Aung San Suu Kyi, she's yet to condemn what's happened. Yesterday in a TV interview, she said that both sides were doing the fighting. Both sides doing the fighting is as crazy as saying, it's just absolutely ridiculous to say something like that, because 99% of the suffering has been on the Muslim side, and maybe a tiny when a Muslim's hit back at one person, that's both sides doing the fighting, according to her. That justifies, for them, it justifies the army going into villages and burning them out. You might have, I don't know, you might have seen pictures of there was one brother, he walked all the way from Burma with, I don't know what you call it, it's like a piece of wood that goes across your back with two baskets hanging from it. They use it in Bangladesh to carry rice, dan boi barzano, bill. So in this, he was carrying his mother in one basket and his father in the other basket. And he walked from Burma to Bangladesh to seek refuge. Now, how can we as Muslims, when we see the images like this, not have hurt in our hearts to say, what if that was our parents? What if that was our mother? What if that was our father? My children are 5 and 6, alhamdulillah. There was a 6 or 7 year old on TV saying that he walked from Burma to Bangladesh with his 2-year-old and his 3-year-old brother and sister because his parents had been murdered in front of them. But our hearts are hard. This kind of suffering just doesn't go in. We're Muslims by name, but Iman hasn't penetrated us and hasn't moved us to that state where we're not feeling the pain that they're feeling. Right now there's relief that's being offered by ordinary Muslims that are giving up their livelihoods to go out and try and support these people. Now I saw a Bangladeshi rickshaw driver and a Bangladeshi baby taxi driver filling his baby taxi up with rice and filling his baby taxi up with little things just so he can feed some of these refugees. Yet we're in the laps of luxury, and we need to ask ourselves, what have we given? That's a question for each person on his personal basis. What have we done? What have we given? See, these are things that we can do from over here. We can't go on that. We can't stop the violence physically ourselves, but these are little things that we can do. We can give. Alhamdulillah, we're blessed. Over here, we're blessed. Alhamdulillah. Even the poorest amongst us is blessed compared to what these people have. There's a lot of good charity work going on. Al Khair Foundation, they're partnered with Ikra TV. I don't know if anyone knows them, but they've done a lot of on the ground work. There's another Ummah Welfare Trust, that's another charity led by one of my ustads. They're doing a lot, they've got a lot of people on the ground that are helping. So these are little bits that we can do. There's other things that we can do, like I mentioned, the protests and the demonstrations. If we can join, if we can't join, we support. If we can get other people to join, if we can't go ourselves. Lobbying MPs and lobbying politicians, this is another thing that this country prides itself on being a democracy. So because of that, we have representation from our MPs. Our MPs have to represent our views. If we can lobby our MPs, Richard Bergen, Fabian Hamilton, MPs close to this area. Our MEP, get the issue raised with the European Parliament. Either if we can't see them personally, I can provide anyone who wants a letter. All they have to do is put their name and address on it and sign it, and they can submit and just post it. More than anything else, more than everything else, we need to make dua for this situation, and we need to make dua for ourselves in terms of our iman and protection of our iman, and we need to make dua for the Muslim ummah that's suffering around the world, because dua dua is the essence of the believer. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam also said that the dua is the weapon of the believer. So if we've got this powerful weapon, we need to be using it. We need to be, because with dua, it's a direct connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. See, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also says, وَاسْتَعِينُوا بِالصَّبْرِ وَالصَّلَاةِ. So seek Allah's help with sabr, with patience, and with salah. So if we ask Allah for help, pray 2 rakats nafil namaz. Get up in the middle of the night, pray tahajjud. Pray tahajjud, and after that you pray those 2 rakats, cry your eyes out to Allah. Cry your eyes out. The ulama are doing it, but where are we? Well, we need to ask ourselves, where are we? What are we? These are direct things we can do. Okay, we don't see it straight away, but this opens a channel between us and Allah. Now, if everyone has opened this channel between them and Allah, Allah will not turn his back on us. Allah will never turn his back on us. May Allah give me the strength to act upon what I've said. May Allah give us all the strength to act upon what I've said. And any mistakes that I've made are from me, and anything that good that comes from what I've said is from Allah. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.